Hope everyone had a safe and wonderful holiday season and on to 2026. The beginning of the year is always a rocky time for horror, despite some hidden gems here and there. For the most part, brand new filmmakers have this pocket of time where they're able to create foundational work while also working on their own identity as creators. Which is why oftentimes movies that come out around this time can feel like I've seen them 100 times before. With that being said, the expectations are pretty low for any January release. It's a pretty scary time for any movie because these are the movies that tend to be the most forgettable. Primate is one of the first horror movies of the year, or at least theatrically released horror movies of the year. With a backdrop of Hawaii, a group of friends get to party after not being home together for some time, and tagging along is the family pet chimp. What could go wrong? This is about as straightforward as a creature feature can get. It's the ubiquitous tried and true plot of characters get stuck without any outside help and get picked off one by one until they're able to overcome the monster right before the cops show up. Very much like people have tried to do in real life, Ben has been trained and raised to be like another member in the family, where he communicates and interacts safely among humans, that is, until Ben contracts rabies. What then seems to be a perfect fun getaway quickly turns into, well, Cujo, where the cast is essentially stuck in a safe space as the predator stalks them around. Apparently Cujo was actually a heavy inspiration for the film, and it definitely shows. It's also pretty obvious the similarities between this and Gordy from Jordan Peele's masterpiece Nope, or even the very scary and tragic real-life story of Travis the chimp, down to the opening sequence feeling like a direct reference to the face mutilation that Travis inflicted on Charla Nash. Easily the best thing this movie's got going for it is its self-awareness of what it is. This isn't some cerebral, subversive experimental film. It's schlocky, it's bananas, it's ridiculously dumb, but you know what? It's actually kind of enjoyable, and I'm kind of shocked that it is. It's not a shocker to say it's not a traditionally good movie. It's flawed as hell, and there are several things that'll get your eye twitching from how stupid it can get. But if the idea of a Jaws on Land or a Cujo remake sounds mildly entertaining, then this isn't gonna disappoint. I think first order of business is addressing the chimp, as it's fundamentally the main subject of the movie, and I'm honestly impressed. With this being a very low budget movie, I was wondering how are they gonna get around the idea of having to use a fully CG chimp throughout the whole movie without it looking terrible in quality. The amount of prosthetic used was awesome, and having a guy in a straight up costume was way more effective than I would have thought. I really am on the side of preferring a guy in a costume over a bunch of CG, which this movie would have required a lot of. And doing that left so much money on the table for the best part of this movie, which without a doubt is the kills. All the money was spent on the location of this movie, which was stunning, and the kills. I couldn't believe how insane these kills were. Again, keeping in mind this isn't a trauma film or a Terrifier film where the expectations are through the roof. But for as wacky as this movie is, Ben is an absolute menace. There's also plenty of catharsis with this movie, because wouldn't you ever watch a teen horror movie and be upset when the annoying characters wouldn't get a really cool kill and instead they'd just get an easy or off-screen kill? The annoying characters here, which is to say pretty much all of them, get some really gnarly deaths and injuries. The R rating is really put to good use this time around. And it's good that this movie grabs your attention with all those awesome kills, because honestly, like I said before, wow, this movie is dumb. The idea that rabies makes the animal aggressive and unable to recognize people that they would know is completely understandable. But it's a ridiculous stretch to make me think that post-rabies, he's not only evil incarnate, but is also a tactician that sets up traps and bait to get the upper hand on the teens. Also, how Ben's able to just compose himself enough to deem them bad. And I was laughing so hard at one point in the movie when Ben was pressing a button that literally said dead. Like, why would an iPad for a family pet chimp have a button that says dead? The score for the movie was quite good too. It was giving me vibes of a Phantasm-esque score. The synths were really working for me. The runtime is another positive of the movie. It's a tight 90-minute runtime, and honestly, it feels even shorter. The movie does not dilly nor dally, because the movie starts, we get our characters in the house where everything's gonna happen, and then we get right to the good stuff. So the pacing is surprisingly fluid, and for as much as the kills were standouts, I liked the tension throughout the film. It was cute to see how there's quite a few sequences that we're just watching Ben to see if we can get around him or grab something that we need. So the suspense factor was also there and worked quite nicely. Also, all this isn't to say a January release is forcibly awful and cannot be a good, meaningful experience. There's no reason why Hereditary can't release in January, it's just obviously we don't get many of those in January. But like, we got Companion early early on last year, and that ended up being one of my favorite movies of the entire year, so clearly we can get good movies early on in a year. It's just that based off of this premise, you see how silly it is, and with those expectations in mind, it's a good time. Had this movie come out in the spring or summertime, I still think it would have been a fun, harmless little movie. That being said though, there's definitely a lot wrong with this movie. For starters, the cast was not likable at all. I understand I'm not the same demographic as them, but they're so superficial and one-dimensional that it's just so annoying to watch them. I didn't get what the movie was going for with the two sisters. Like when they first meet, we see how they had issues because they've been estranged for so long, but we didn't explore that anymore. I thought that we were gonna get more of that throughout the movie. A lot of the character dynamics just felt so plain and uninteresting. The whole sign language thing was a neat introduction, and I thought we were gonna do something clever with it that actually affects the plot, but it never does. Give me a scenario where the two sisters are on opposite sides of a room and need to communicate without Ben noticing, something like that. For as awesome as Ben is as a predator, animal lovers are not gonna love this movie because there is zero attempt at having any sympathy towards Ben. And that's just one of the cons of having a short runtime, that you can't explore everything as in-depth as you would like to. They might have been able to humanize him more if they had more time, especially because he's supposed to be family. The way it went, it literally could have been just a random wild animal from the forest and it would have been the exact same movie, and I'm not necessarily sure Roberts was going for that. And lastly, I think it's a little silly that the Ben we meet in the beginning is like 3 times smaller than the Ben we have by the end. It's like the movie really didn't think people would notice that in a night's worth of time, Ben grew massively, and it's not because of the rabies. Overall, it's a cute little horror flick that is great to have at a party as like background noise. To be fair to the director, this is his second best film, since I actually am a defender of Strangers Prey at Night. In fact, I love both the original and Prey at Night. Each have stuff to love about them. But that's it for me. I'd appreciate a thumbs up, subscribe, and sincerely yours, Anthony.